TERFcast.
I need to talk about how it was given 7 times before. I need to know that.
Pop these trannies like a pilly sissy, you a frilly sissy at the con with the prissy sissies and them faggy sissies. You speak up and they stabbing skissies, clearing they panties pissy. Yo, JY, not a tranny sissy, you a fan of sissy on the E dick in my George Gardner on my phone. You wanna fuck with no hard on, bitch, quit your deep ass modes. Only stroke your bone alone, 45 minutes from the hormones. Step your pussy up or your dead name's on your gravestone. In matriarchy, but I'm transition, we gender abolition. FauxxXy, don't talk right, they trying to get me first edition. All you do is misgender a man or cut your tongue out like audition. So many pedals in the community, it's like the remix to ignition. I don't with no new pose, only real hoes. But my dick in the kissy, man, I pass it to my bro. You get clocked in the bathroom and you call it Jim Crow.
So yeah, it's just, weekly turf news again.
Should we just dive in? Or should
I don't have anything else to say.
I don't know that we have to explain our absence.
So this podcast is about radical feminism. Yeah, I mean, like, it's not a weekly cast anymore.
No.
Sorry.
I think, there's definitely, like, enough, like, news, for it to be like that, but it's just, like, it's actually pretty overwhelming to dive into this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself more lately kind of not as turfy as
it comes and goes.
It comes and goes. Sometimes something will happen and it'll be like, oh, that's such a great drama or scandal and you want to talk about it, but like, yeah, at this point I'm just a little bit exhausted, but I do want to talk about the topics that we have today, so I'm excited that we're back.
This is a nice catharsis episode, I guess, for both of us. I guess we should go ahead and start. So our lead story is that, of course, there's a few things that could be our lead story, but our lead story is Vancouver Rape Relief, the women's rape shelter, being vandalized with anti-turf graffiti.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should go into the whole thing, probably, just in case somebody who is listening is not familiar. I mean, I assume, like, if you're a TERF, you know about Vancouver Rape Relief. It's the oldest rape shelter in Vancouver. And in the 90s, they had a big court case against this trans woman named Cynthia Nixon, who sued them on the basis of discrimination for not letting him be a rape crisis counselor. And
have I heard the name Cynthia Nixon before? No, she's an actress.
Yeah.
She was running for governor. She was on Sex and the City.
You're right. It's Kimberly Nixon.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah. And then Kim Cattrall came. No, it was Kimberly Nixon, I think. You know, like, am I supposed to remember all these men's names? I mean, come on. Anyway, Kimberly Nixon, who looks like a man, but whatever, really, 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 really desperately wanted to counsel rape victims, which is some AGP shit, I'm sure.
I try and support women as best I can. I don't want to try and do anything like that.
Yeah,
that's not like feminist or anything, and you should just stay away at that point. If you're like you need to provide some sort of immediate help, but this is official help. You shouldn't have anything to do with it.
It's just so creepy to me. It just strikes me, I'm sure most people, most normies would just think like, oh, what a nice thing. But like, I've just read too much shit. So to me, I'm just like, oh, cool. This guy needs like, At best, this dude needs validation being allowed to be in a women's only space.
Yeah, we all know what's up with that.
Yeah. Anyway, so a court ruled in Nixon's favor, and then the Supreme Court of Canada overruled it. So Vancouver Rape Relief has been allowed to, exist as it wishes to exist for a long time. In more recent, maybe 6 months ago, maybe less.
When was the Kimberly Nixon thing?
1994, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So, but there was always conflict with the trans rights people. Vancouver is a pretty politically hip scene. It's very they have a lot of activists and stuff. And apparently they have a lot of TERFs. I've seen that lamented a few times on Transbook. But anyway, Morgan Auger, another autogynephile, he has been for years trying to get Vancouver Rape Relief defunded. And he finally succeeded with about $35,000 from the Vancouver City Fund, but I believe they're still getting money from Canada in general, some other grant. But anyway, they didn't back down even after the funding was revoked, the $35,000. And then a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a dead rat was nailed to their door frame. And there was no message, but I mean, it seemed pretty clear to every TERF that, it was probably a trans-related thing, although Vancouver Rape Relief didn't, when they posted the image, they didn't, say that that's what it was. They just said, this is misogyny and, this is bullshit, but they didn't say that it was trans-related. But
we all knew they didn't have to,
Yeah, a second attack has recently happened. I'll let you describe that.
So all over the front of the building now, all over the windows, things like trans women are women, trans power, TERFs go home, you are not welcome, where, I don't know what they're talking about, and kill TERFs, of course, have been written all over the front windows. So, does this... is this, anything but, peaking people at this point? What on earth could this be read as otherwise except for just blatant misogyny? It's a rape shelter.
Well, obviously, I've been following Left Book on this. And there seems to be, two going narratives. Or I guess you could combine the two narratives. It's TERFs did this themselves, but also the message is fine. And TERFs deserve it. So.
You feel like, you wouldn't be surprised anymore, right? But, I know. This is just one of those things, much like being in athletics, that I just don't think I would have ever understood. If, because, I don't know, I always had, just the slightest bit of resistance, whether or not, I really was, outward about it or not, with regards to trans ideology, and it makes me think a lot of other people are too, that they're just, group thinking rather than, actually thinking. like, I don't think I could have ever, punched a TERF, because of course not. Like, it's a woman and I'm bigger than most women. Like, and you just not, like, if you're a man, you just don't do that. um and like, it's like, just like people buy their bullshit more and more, to the point where they feel stuff like this is okay. They're just drunk on ideology.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I have to say, when I saw it, I I mean, there is something about it that is super on the nose and like very ridiculous, like to say trans power and go home, you're not welcome here. Just to have, I mean, it's so much like white power,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's like it just has so much like racial implications that you're almost like, wow, would they have written that? Like, I seriously doubt it was radical feminists who did that. I know it, I'm like positive that it wasn't anybody at VRR, but I wonder, could it be some sort of like third party instigator? But then, there's been so many things like the trans movement is so like following it is so fucking with my like ability to discern reality, because there has been so many
That's
times
the
where I was
point.
like, surely this is a troll, surely this isn't meant, surely this is too on the like, it's just arousing all of my suspicions of like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is too good to be true, to my turf bias, that this person said this. And then I go and look into it, and it is true. That person like
Yep.
is sincere, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And they have like no basis for like history at all. And it's like it is actually believable that they would be dumb enough to do that,
Oh,
to write that
absolutely.
shit.
Yeah. Like, if you follow trans stuff enough, you're just gonna notice just how much, like, fucking, transgression of Poe's law occurs.
Insane.
Like, I think everybody remembers the first bearded man they saw claiming to be a trans woman.
Yeah.
Like, I like showed my roommate one the other day, and he was like, "That's not real. That can't be real." But guess what? People, it is real. Like, there's
Yeah.
more and more of those kinds of people every day, and I, I think it's, I don't really have a doubt in my mind that it's, that this was, sincerely trans people doing this, trans activists.
As a lay detective, I would probably think that the suspect is actually AFAB
Huh.
and is like 17 years old or something. Like, they've got to be
Mm-hmm.
just really dumb.
It's always sad,
And
you
they're,
know.
but I mean, in those communities, they have this like, oh, all AFABs are like, because trans men pass better and AFABs get
Yeah,
treated better. Like, it just becomes this like
that's not
crazy.
gonna that's not gonna be, like, true for long. If it is true now, trans
Right.
men passing better.
But,
Like, I can
well, I'm
clock a
just
trans
saying,
man pretty fucking easy at this point.
but then they also say like, well, you're an actual man. You know what I mean? Like they have the like, you're a man and I'm a woman, and so I'm oppressed more than you. So you have to go do the dirty deeds on my behalf. You know what I mean? Like, or they'll
Mm,
say like, oh, cis people and white people, like you have to go
I.
do the dangerous stuff or do the illegal stuff, or you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
because we're so we're so oppressed in our
Yeah. Well, I'm
pro.
not sure. I feel like it could be either. Like, it's always really, like, sad just when you see young women indoctrinated into, this misogynist trans ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not. new, and they actually think that it's helping them escape misogyny. So, that's understandable. You can't really fault them too much. But yeah, it's like you say, there's no way that it's TERFs doing it themselves, because the left book trans community is fine with it. So they don't see a problem. So there's no reason to think they wouldn't have done it. Especially since they've proven time and again that this stuff is entirely within their wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they're saying it's fine. Yeah, and saying and even when people were well, just to see people who were yeah, that's bad. That's not helping. And then people come in and they're you can't fight intolerance with tolerance. And just dumb fucking left book bullshit about well, you gotta stamp out reactionaries. And
they all just see it as it's very, I don't even know how people can be this dumb, but this whole notion of cis women has really successfully painted women as oppressors or privileged, and so it becomes very easy for people to see them as such, as bigots, as somehow needing to be taken down a peg, rather than I would never say the most oppressed minority for anybody, because we all know who thinks they are that. But a group who has been subjugated through the entirety of human history, which is women, as opposed to this neo crap. It's always funny to me when Badals are trans misogyny is the root of all evil. It's what the fuck are you talking about? How can you have you thought at all about how that is intertwined with other oppressions? Is the number one problem facing black people in America the fact that white people invented gender for them? Is that really the number one problem? But you're also not even contextualizing that correctly, because you like gender. But anyway,
yeah, and I just feel
lover.
This isn't, and they don't care. But I mean, it's there's a lot of collateral damage here too, I guess, or there's all the women who have nothing to do with how the shelter is run, who have to walk past that shit, including the dead rat. In some ways, I feel like the dead rat is worse to some extent.
How's that?
Because it has well, maybe the kill TERFs thing is worse, but I just feel the rat was what does this mean? And then every woman who was there could have just as well thought that it was her ex. Or, it's just it's just a little bit more intimidating, I think, because there was no actual message. And maybe it's just because I find trans people, trans ideologues just easy to laugh off. I mean, I know that there's probably going to be, and there has been, actual violence.
Yeah.
Although I don't think, I mean, it's bad to punch a 60-year-old lady in the UK. But it wasn't I'm not excusing it, but I think that bigger and much more shocking violence is possible. But I also think that most of these people are just absolute beta weaklings and aren't gonna do shit.
Yeah, they.
But
Yeah, that's the way to put it. I always remember it was in like I don't know, Brazil or something.
oh yeah,
Do you remember this? Where like some
where they just start like
they were like
like
20 years
fighting.
old, and like I don't know, like the trans woman who was like probably like a good 7 inches taller than her
Yeah,
just started going in yelling like it's always just like
yeah,
you can
and they
just
weren't
tell
even
how
talking.
male they are every time, and it's just like just like to the casual observer, like what the hell does this look like?
Yeah,
We should amplify
exactly.
this really,
I
because it's the same thing here. What does posting kill anything look like on a when you do it on a rape shelter?
know. It's just the dumbest thing. Like, it was dumb when Posey Parker walked into that person's office, which, was an open office as part of, like,
Mm-hmm.
the, like, Washington thing. Like, anybody can just pop into somebody's office over there. And yeah, it seemed dumb because then people were like, TERFs barge into trans women's places of work to harass them. Uh, like, that was dumb.
Why was Turfo coming to my work so I could make a new friend?
But, like, harassing a rape shelter is, like, so dumb. It's not even in the same universe of just, like, fucking super stupid political moves. Like, why would you hand TERFs that ammo,
Mm-hmm.
But they're like so driven ideologically, like you said, that like to them it's like, oh, they think it's like 1930s Berlin and they have to like
Yeah.
make sure Hitler doesn't rise to power.
Yes, the victim complex is just like
Yeah.
so fucking strong. Like I've been there, Like
Yeah.
I've seen, this mentality from the inside where it's just like, you are the most oppressed ever, and definitely part of the fuel of it is that like you've never been oppressed because you were a white straight man. Um so you don't recognize, that if at best you're as oppressed as other people, your number one oppression is gonna be getting certain looks or people not indulging your new identity. This is it's all just wrapped up in the liberal zeitgeist because people think that like trans women are still oppressed or something. Um, and it's just not how it works because we have a zeitgeist which is very much about like being nice to minorities and stuff like
Mhm.
anti-bullying, blah blah blah, and all trans ideology is at least as an activist cause is just exploiting that for the further
Mhm.
validation of white men. It's not really any mystery.
Mhm. Mhm. It's true. It's true. I just want to say one thing to your comment
Hmm.
about peaking people.
Yeah.
So, uh, I co-run the page Actual Feminism, as probably most people know.
Hmm.
Um, I've always had a pretty strict. You're allowed to come in dissent on our page. You can argue with us. The only people that we really ban are just like literal like MRA dudes who are just like there to
Hmm.
waste people's time. But like people come in and they're like, trans women are women, you meanies, and we just let them have at it. Um, so for
Like,
a really
cause.
really
Mhm.
long time, we had this guy who commented on every single one of our posts, and he would comment on them so quickly that I almost felt like he was paid to do that. And and he would just always have something like either it was like some kind of like GIF that was like some kind of eye roll react, or it would be some comment about how like, you know, trans people aren't doing anything to you. You know, it's just that like real basic shit where like you don't really understand what's going on. So you're just like, why can't you just let people live?
Right.
And this was going on for months. Like he even got like the Facebook like top fan badge.
Aww.
Which I know, which I actually took away from him because I just didn't. I wanted him to be allowed to speak, but I didn't want his shit to like rise to like more prominence in the Facebook algorithm. But anyway, we posted the Vancouver rape relief thing, and he was like, you know,
you got peaked?
I mean, in a sense, yeah. He was like, I'm pro-trans, but this is just evil. You know, like, he said, as if getting municipal funding cut off wasn't enough, imagine what might have been accomplished if all that energy and work had gone into building a community-based trans women shelter that catered to the specific needs of trans folk dealing with violence. But no, shutting down women's spaces is easier and is more important than the fucking hard work it takes to build something like VRR.
Right.
And then make it work. And I was just like dumbfounded. Like I just couldn't even believe it. And then we had this conversation, and I was like, well, you know, Morgane Auger was really wanted to take away this funding. It's been like a real passion project for them. And he didn't know that. And then he's like, what? Like Googling this, and he's just like, fuck me. So I don't know. He hasn't commented on anything since, but we also haven't posted much since. But yeah, I mean, I may have witnessed like my biggest troll peak because of this rape relief thing.
Good for you. Yeah. That's heartwarming right there.
I know, just some positive TERF posting.
It's a real turnaround from the negative story, turning into a positive. All right, let's move along.
All right.
Okay, on to other stories of the week. Okay, I guess we should talk about those Chinese runners.
Yeah, what's up with them?
So there was, I guess it's a relay team of runners who are Chinese, and it was 2 or 3. It was undecided. The TERFs were pretty sure that they were men because they look just like men. They sound just like men.
2 of them.
2. It was either okay. I've seen iterations where people thought it was 3, but anyway.
So yeah, the big one that's being shared by the TRAs as proof of like TERF stupidity says 3, and in that picture it does look like 3. But if you see other pictures of Yang and you hear her talk, you go, oh yeah, that's female. But the other ones, the other 2, not so clear.
Yeah, well, I mean, apparently they are. Maybe this is a Castor Semenya situation. But I swear to God, they're really, can you blame us at this point? Yeah. Even if they really are female, can you really blame us with the fucking bullshit that you guys are pulling? Why should we be like celebrating the fact that they really are female and women can look all kinds of ways when you've been fucking sneaking men into women's competitions for and just fucking like stealing the medals, stealing the glory, like it fucking. Like, why, at this point, speaking of ammo, we cannot let this turn into TRA ammo.
I mean, it's probably too late for that. But it is funny. I mean, I don't know. I think it kind of kicks them in the butt a little bit because, like, it'll be like, these are 4 cis women. The Chinese
Oh yeah,
government
they're
has
so
provided.
cis. They're just so straight up cis, aren't they?
I mean, I just listened to a clip of Castor. She definitely doesn't sound super female either. So, maybe the male voice thing on the Chinese runner, maybe it is a similar thing. Maybe it is a internal testes thing. I should say, also drawing some potential, like, okay, what's up with these two? It was not a relay team. The two that look like men finished in first and second place,
Oh god.
2 seconds ahead of the runner in third place.
That makes me think that they're men.
And they themselves are only 0.1 seconds apart from each other.
How do we know they're female?
China says.
China says. Oh, okay. All right, just like, Russia says that their athletes aren't doping.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. It is they were part of a relay. But that's still true that their times.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
China says, okay, no, I'm sorry. I don't buy it. I lied. Okay, we're done. They're men.
It's really similar to the
China says
to the Connecticut one, the high school track one, where
it was just reported as like being a girl. And
well, no, I just mean like where, like, times wise, where like the two trans competitors were like right neck and neck, and then like the third place is like notably apart from them.
Oh my god, this pisses me off so much. Like, who are these motherfuckers who think they can fucking come in and, just like, just compete against women like that? Like, what, do you have a fucking conscience, dude? My bro? Like, what the fuck? Like, and I was very proud to, somebody added Fallon Fox to the Facebook group MTF Women No Rules, and everybody was piling on that guy. Like, ooh, they were letting him have it. And it was a beautiful thing to see, It was a beautiful thing to see all those HSTS come together, to acknowledge biological sex and that you shouldn't fucking hit women.
Yeah. For real. I mean, it seems obvious.
I hope we got something interesting out of this story, because I guess I should have led with, how do we know that they're female? And, the answer is completely unsatisfactory. So now I must be forced to conclude that they are, in fact, men, especially because of that fucking, finish. That's what does it for me. That's the tip off. Like, it has less to do with the fact that they look male. That's, part of the... That's the other part of it. It's more that they fucking finished that far ahead, and we've seen that kind of shit happen before. It's just not, no, they're men.
I mean, they could both be intersex. They could both have the... You know what I mean? They could both
they're
be
XY then.
Yeah. Do you want me to do the next one?
Yeah, let's move on. Jesus Christ.
So I totally missed this, so I assume that a lot of people missed this. We have an update on a story. Definitely nobody missed that 2 women were charged with sexually assaulting a transgender woman in a North Carolina bar bathroom. Everybody heard that. That was shared like everywhere. It was not really clear in the story, like, what happened. It just seemed like a bunch of drunk women.
Wasn't this in January?
This was in January.
Yeah.
And the trans woman, he went on, like, the news, but his, like, his face was covered. Like, you couldn't see his, who he was. They were protecting his identity. But he was just like, I just want an apology. Like, that he was not looking for them to be severely punished, although he also says that, like, he felt so scared and he you know, is so shaken and whatever. So the update on that is...
can we define sexual assault on this particular case?
I think they grabbed his boobs, maybe. Maybe they, like, you know, were like, oh, do you have a dick? Kind of a thing. Like, just,
well, that's
I don't
not
know.
that second part's not sexual assault, but the first part, I'm sure he enjoyed it. That's a horrible thing to say, but you know. So
that was reposted everywhere. Like, every major outlet took up that story. In July, the same trans woman, so to speak, was arrested and charged with assaulting a woman at a different bar. And it's such a weird story too. And this was reported once in the local news. That was it. No one picked it up. Nobody updated the other stories. Nothing. And we don't even know what happened with the court case. Like, as far as I know, you know, I mean, I don't know. For all I know, the case could have been dropped against those two women, but their names are mud forevermore, because if you Google them, all that's going to come up is that they, like, harassed this poor trans woman. But anyway, you know, at least that thing was like they were having a good time, and then it just sort of turned into an argument or whatever. This one is so weird. So the woman says that she stopped at the bar to seek help after her friend was hurt falling off a scooter. And then within a few seconds, she felt someone grab her from behind inappropriately. And it was by this trans woman. So, like, and I guess he kept doing it. It, like, happened several times. So, like...
Within a few seconds? Like...
Well, within a few seconds of her arriving there. Yeah. Like, I just need some help. My friend fell off a scooter. Ah!
Yeah, all I can think is that, like, a trans woman must have been extremely drunk or something. It's like, how... There's no like, lead up to it at all. And if it's repeated, you know, like, now, like, I understand, you know, obviously people want to get, like, a quick grope or whatever if they can, but if it's repeated, it's like, what's happening? Oh my god. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you know, but that's, you know, I don't think, you know, most rad films are not going to be surprised at any instance of, you know, male sexual misconduct.
I wish we had some, you know, TERFs in, like, who could follow up on these things.
Yeah.
And find out, you know, go to these trials and stuff, but...
Yeah. Like, going like Elsie did for Yaniv.
Yeah, because we're never gonna know about this stuff, probably.
If I found something like this happen in Los Angeles, I think I would try and go. That might be fun.
Oh, hell yeah. If it happened in Illinois, I definitely would, but...
Yeah, it's just, you know, everyone's always talking about how big a victim, you know, trans women are, and, you know, just the media wants to make a, you know, trans woman victim, and then when trans women are, you know, actually doing assault, it's apparently there's some sort of taboo against discussing that because they don't want to paint all trans women like that. Okay, well then how many fucking times does it have to happen? Who has to tell you that? You're just not believing women at this point, or we're in such a Me Too climate, such a believe women climate. Oh, but not when it's like this person with this special protection. And people like fucking Charles Clymer recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
wait.
Okay.
Oh, well, go ahead with what you were going to say, but don't move off this topic yet.
I wasn't going to. I'm such a big, you know, conspiracy theorist. And, like, a lot of times... Yeah, like, if I feel like elites could be controlling something, then, you know, I have no reason to believe they aren't. They've given me no reason to trust them. But and I do often wonder, like, what would be the real goal in covering up something like this? Is there, it feels almost like, misogyny is just completely, has complete control of the culture, and we don't need, elites, reinforcing that. But at the same time, you see shit like this happen, where the narrative is just, you know, completely, manicured to make, trans women into the victims and ignore their, male violence. Um, and I just think, like, why is this happening? And, because somebody in it's the media has control over what they report. It happened just the same. So why is it selective in this way? I just don't really get the advantage of being liberal in this particular way. It's not like we don't have, plenty of, conservatives who would, eat something like that up. It's not like women are naturally against their own interests or anything, and they're 50% of the population, so I don't fucking get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely, I'm sure it's being done out of a sense of protecting the weak, protecting the vulnerable.
Well, and a sense of misogyny, you'd think.
Well, yeah, there's that. So there's a related story in a sense. Recently, a homeless transgender woman moved from Utah to Oregon.
I was just gonna bring this up. Yeah, we forgot to put it on the list, but yeah, if you didn't talk about this, I would have.
All right, started taking hormones 2 weeks ago.
This is so funny. This is all on Reddit. Like, it was my 2-week anniversary. It's like, are you fucking retarded? Like, what are you talking about? You didn't even shave.
Yeah.
This is the main thing. This quote unquote trans woman did not even shave before doing this. But go ahead.
Yeah. Goes into a women's room at a park, like a bathroom. I'm assuming it's kind of like a building that they go into just to use the bathroom. And it's pretty remote, is my understanding. And the woman came out and complained to her very drunk boyfriend that she was being harassed by a man in the women's room.
Which is entirely possible.
And then, and I'm not, like, crazy about male violence being the solution to females' problems, because I don't think it is. But this boyfriend then beat the shit out of the homeless transgender woman. And, like, I just want to say, like, they keep using the word homeless, and there's, like, a difference between Oregon homeless and, like, Los Angeles homeless. Or Chicago homeless.
Oregon homeless probably means you're couch surfing,
You're couch surfing.
This is just, more oppression points, really.
Yeah, exactly.
The media wants more sympathy, so people read their story more, have their, stay on the page longer so the ad can roll over.
Yeah, and it's more like, I don't know, a choice or something. And I'm not, maybe this dude is just so fucking mental that, like, he can't hold jobs and he can't. But he's, like, all over Reddit and stuff. It's like, oh, you're still homeless. That's why you have, like, a data plan. But so I just think the parallel in this story is that, well, besides it being a bathroom thing, but that he also goes like, oh, I don't care that much about the punishment, like, is also just being kind of like, oh, I just want an apology. And it's just a strange thing. I don't know why, but, like, what he said was so similar to what the trans woman, the dude in North Carolina said. That I was like, oh, so maybe you were. And also, this story sat for like 3 days before any major publication took it up. And I thought, oh, maybe there's more to the story, and so no one wants to publish it. It still hasn't gone on to, like, any super big.
Well,
like, I haven't seen it, like, Washington Post or,
well, that 2-week thing and that beard thing, I think if they,
right.
I think if they report this, it's gonna pique people.
Yeah.
Because because we've all seen, well, I don't know if we've all, but you and I have seen that image of this quote unquote trans woman, with blood all over the face, but also with fucking beard hair all over the face. And it says 2 weeks, and it's like whining, and it's like,
Yeah.
I want to ask, like, if there's anybody who's trans, in our listener base who's listening to me say this right now. Go ahead, comment. Tell me, would you dream of being on HRT for only 2 weeks? Not only that, but also of, like, identifying as a woman or whatever for 2 weeks.
No, it was like a year, apparently.
No, this was 2 weeks.
Well, it's 2 weeks on HRT, but a year, apparently. Like, he says all of his friends.
Of identifying? Okay, well,
like, whatever that means.
Yeah,
I mean,
whatever.
just, like,
but anyway, yeah,
shit.
could you imagine looking like this guy, putting in as much as only 2 weeks time, and of not even fucking shaving and going into a women's restroom? That is psycho shit. Like, we're on
in the middle of nowhere. We're like, you know what I mean? Like, also, it's not like, oh, it's a really busy restroom where there's lots of people around.
Well, either way,
in a city. I mean, yes, either way, but, like, if there's one other woman, I mean, if there's one woman, I should say.
Well, you're not like you should, disturb her.
Well, I just mean, like, you're really going to scare the shit out of a single person.
Oh, yeah. They can't all mob against you,
right. I mean, there's some hope for...
This is just ridiculous. Just, like, fuck this guy. Like, I understand, like, both of them probably actually, were attacked in some capacity, whether or not they instigated it. And so, like, I can understand their mentality right now, being, the victim mentality. Because, I mean, they are in some capacity a victim because they were physically assaulted. Whether or not they started it. But, like, like, what point? We shouldn't have sympathy for them at this point. Like, because they're the ones who fucking are, on, like, I don't know. Okay, so I understand, like, they're brainwashed by ideology into doing this, right? Like, they're in this cult that tells them this stuff is okay, and then, women are not in this cult, and they're like, okay, that's not okay, like, like, I don't understand why this is happening to me. But so now we're just getting into, like, how much of the blame game can we pull? It's just I don't know how individually they are to blame, especially since they both seem like, real fucking head cases, like most trannies. But
yeah, I don't know. I didn't look into his Reddit history or anything, so I don't know.
That one post was just ridiculous, and every HSTS I saw on Facebook was just laughing at him. So
yeah.
But anyway, let's move on. We got one more regular story here, which is no, we do. You skipped it.
I didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who is? Okay, I don't know what actor. I don't know what actor or what show this guy is on. Actually, shit. Let's look it up really, really quick.
Should we know? Are we racist for not knowing?
Give me a sec. It looks like he's in multiple stuff.
New York Undercover. Is that a show that anyone has seen? He's on Empire.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh man,
he's also
what is with the actors on Empire?
This actor from Cool Runnings and more recently Empire.
Okay, wait, but real talk, Cool Runnings is like one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah.
Kid, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So this black actor who was on Empire and with fellow queer black man, gay black man rather, Jussie Smollett, who is not relevant to this story, but I don't know how queer Empire really is. I know Lee Daniels, I don't believe is, gay or bisexual, but is, a camp guy. But at any rate, so this guy name is Malik Yoba. Has come out as trans attracted. Now,
that's a good thing.
It is. That's a good thing.
In itself,
that's fine.
Until you get to the second
of course,
part of the story.
We know that this is probably, a fetish or whatever, but I don't think that really necessarily matters to me. I am an autogynephile myself, so I don't really,
no
it
judgment.
doesn't make any, it's not a difference. I didn't choose to have that. Nobody did. But at any rate.
But I mean, that could move something. If it weren't for the second half of the story, this would be a positive story because maybe it could help move some attitudes in the black community that would actually start helping black trans women from not being murdered.
Yeah.
It could actually be helpful. And then
which has nothing to do with
what happens.
Community except for in the very abstract. But anyway.
Yeah.
The reason why he has come out as trans attracted is because he has been sleeping with. Now, you would hope this is an oxymoron, like a triple oxymoron, but it's not. This is a real child trans prostitutes for years, and he's about to be charged for it. That's why he's, come out as this thing. It's exactly like when Kevin Spacey came out as gay right when he was being accused of molesting 17-year-old boys. It's the exact same thing. It's just people, twisting their, egregious actions into wokeness. Yeah, it's like, and people are buying this one. Nobody bought Kevin Spacey because he was like hot shit, but people aren't paying attention to this part. Somebody with a pretty detailed fucking account of this guy doing it to her. So, yeah, that's great. This is not like, like Keanu Reeves dating Jamie what's-her-name,
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because it is so, like, it could have been such a good story. Apparently, he says that he did it in response to, there's this man called Maurice Willoughby who was dating a trans woman and apparently had been extensively bullied for it and then killed himself. Now, we generally don't say, like, okay, because A happened, then that's why the person suicided. But, certainly men who are attracted to trans women are going to be prone to being bullied. But, like, really we should deal with is just being like, it's okay to be a bit gay.
Right.
If touching a dick makes you gay, then, and you like touching a dick when it's on an otherwise female person, but still, the dick is male, like.
Yeah. This is traps.
So what?
Traps are gay. It just doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with being gay.
Yeah,
Traps are gay. It's just like, it's, the way we discuss that is exactly like, saying if you don't say trans women are women, then you're dehumanizing them. What's wrong with not being a woman, like.
Right. Yeah, and I should say.
How is that, men are human too. Ooh, what a shocking, thing there. Why is, your entire being have to be woman in order for you to be human?
Yeah.
And you're just
And I should
not,
say, this dude, Maurice Willoughby, when you read the details, like, he was a heavy drug user. He overdosed after his girlfriend left him. But the way that the media spins it is he killed himself because people bullied him about his trans lover.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right.
It's just that media spin. This is the theme of the episode, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the theme of the whole thing, really.
Yeah.
Like, just the whole movement. All right. Dumb online shit.
Oh, boy.
Should we do it?
Yeah. So, our lead story in Dumb Online Shit is people are probably going to be wondering why this wasn't our overall lead story, but I think, there's something that's bad that's going to happen soon, and I think we're saving, a full episode on it for then, unfortunately. But we're going to specify the Dumb Online Shit here towards the death wishes and celebration that has come Magdalene Burns' way as she slowly succumbs to brain cancer.
Mm-hmm.
From prominent TRAs like Rachel McKinnon, most notably. But, this is just, we're such in this just, ideology drugged world that people think, stuff like that is okay, It's like people think she's so dangerous. What? Oh, she's putting, ideas into the world?
Yeah.
And people will call her like the queen of TERFs and stuff. I like when people, have to come up with, these figureheads for a movement as if people couldn't come to those conclusions on their own. All Magdalene Burns does is elucidate them in an entertaining and, cogent way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a lot of people comparing it to, like, being happy that David Koch died. And I'm like, none of David Koch's friends or family are ever going to see that. He was a literal billionaire. Magdalene Burns isn't even doing that great on, like, YouTube standards. Like,
yeah, she has like 50,000 views, average. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, she has 28,000 subscribers. That's like moderately successful, but like,
it's not PewDiePie.
I mean, it's not even, even somebody less recognizable than that.
How could anybody compare her to David fucking Koch? It's just, I don't understand, like, how have we gotten to this point where even quote-unquote cis women, lesbians specifically, are no longer oppressed as opposed to men, What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, Steph Sanjati and ContraPoints have like 10 times as many subscribers as Magdalene Burns. Magdalene Burns is like not, I mean, not to say that she's not influential to me, but like this is not even a person, like, she was making like $500 a month on Patreon. That's nothing.
Right.
ContraPoints makes like over $100,000 a month. Like,
what a nightmare.
Yeah, to compare Magdalene Burns to like David Koch, or like, I even saw people like, do you think the Jews were sad when Hitler died?
Lol.
Like,
what does she have to do with Hitler?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing as with like the rape relief.
It's like, here's an interesting, idea here. And I recently saw fucking ContraPoints do that fucking bro, like, god damn it, like, go fucking hate that guy. I hope he gets poisoned. But
Hey.
Yeah, look at that.
You're no better.
Look at that now. Here we are. Nobody gets poisoned and lives and just doesn't have a fun time. Maybe I'll cut that out. We'll see. I really do not like ContraPoints though. But at any rate, there's this interesting, idea. Yeah, interesting that there's somehow that trans oppression is somehow systemic, and people will, use that pun systemic. Like, what are you talking about? Trans ontology is brand fucking new. People have not been, in gender nonconformity as, which is the most abstract iteration of trans oppression, or transness rather, it has been, marginalized as a result of, sexism and just patriarchal gender norms. That has nothing to do with cisness. That nobody even can define, cis or trans without being circular. And so what are you talking about? But this is the basis that people use for saying that people like Magdalene Burns are somehow oppressing them, because Magdalene Burns somehow has systemic privilege because she doesn't pretend she's a man. I could come up with anything. I could start doing anything stupid. I could fucking start pooping my pants on purpose and turn it into an oppressed identity. Oh, people, when they wrinkle their nose at me, it just hurts so much. This is a systemic problem. What are you talking about? But I really want to. It's my identity. This is the same. It's the same. There's no difference. You could start doing anything at this point. It's just meant the fucking wall. What are you talking about? It's just men, entitled men.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh my god.
All right, let's get angrier, because now it's time for the second.
Oh boy, this is the dumbest shit ever. This whole episode, I'm just pissed off. But
I know.
Yeah, I know it's been a minute since we did one of these, so this is the goal, really. I just want to fucking god damn it. Anyway, do you read this one? I don't want to.
We will say that we acknowledge our bias. This is just this is really not this is not commonly accepted in the trans community.
No,
this is
not really.
One or two absolute weirdos, but this is the kind of shit that that happens. I've
seen it happen before. This isn't even the first time. This is just the most popular instance of this happening. I had this idea myself, believe it or not, at one point.
So yeah, the idea is that Kurt Cobain would still be alive if Kurt Cobain had transitioned.
Because
because he is a woman.
Because he has an inherent gender identity, so inherent that we should call him she instead.
And transing the dead is so weird.
Because it's just this is what happens when you start thinking of trans as this inherent identity. This whole notion of closeted trans women. I saw. Oh my god! In fact, let's combine this right here, because I saw another take just like this from one Arthur Chu.
What?
This is from April, but here's the tweet. No, George Sand was a gender nonconforming cis woman. However, Charlotte Bronte, Anne Bronte, Jane Austen, Daphne du Maurier were all closeted trans men. Emily Bronte was non-binary. Charles Dickens was a trans woman, as was Honoré de Balzac. What in the fuck are you talking about? This reminds me, have you ever seen that image that somebody did there? They drew like Thomas Jefferson as like a non-binary trans guy.
No.
This is just the same. That's all I'm thinking at the point where you're saying like Emily Bronte is non-binary. What in the fuck are you talking about besides that you don't understand that women can have a problem with gender because it is, the system of their oppression without being men. Oh, men don't want to be treated like women, but women do? Oh, but back on this Kurt Cobain thing. So Kurt Cobain is what I like to call a failed man. He is in the same, sphere as, trans women and as incels, not trying to diss him there. But, he obviously, was not comfortable with masculinity, which is more rare than not being comfortable with femininity, because femininity, sucks and is more oppressive than masculinity. Masculinity isn't great, but at any rate, Kurt always would sing about, the natal, and, had songs like Ben a Son.
It's certainly true that he had a very, unique connection to gender.
Right.
And socialization. But, he was also very much a dude. He had,
He was heterosexual, for one thing.
Yeah.
Which today wouldn't necessarily mean anything.
But
it's possible he was not a gynophile. I don't really think it's relevant.
I don't think it's relevant, but I also feel like he was pretty. Maybe he felt like out of all the things that would be unacceptable for him to talk about, even though he was so radically for gay rights and women's rights, but talking about that so he would be so unable to speak about that.
It's and the do you want to? I want to look at some of these other tweets of this person who decided that Kurt was trans, and
at Psych Ward Slut.
At Psych Ward Slut. This is a pretty good ad, I'm gonna be honest. But somebody said essentially, identifying with another gender is called empathy, not dysphoria. Yeah, Kurt is a pretty good male feminist. I relate to Kurt in that sense, I believe, of, sort of understanding women as, from the perspective of a failed man who is not, mad at women for making me fail like incels are. Essentially, they are failed people under patriarchy in the same way I am failed, even though I should have expected to have been successful, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But anyway, someone said that, and then Psychorsless said, no, that is your 90s understanding of feminism that denied trans women the right to exist. Kurt lived as a woman. She lived feminist ideology to the point of never coming out as one. Yeah, okay. It killed her. It's not just empathy, it's the dysphoria that told her she would never be a girl. Yeah, this is just fascinating at this point.
It's just really strange, like when people are like no, and then this person is like telling them like somebody's like, well, do you have any like sources on this or something I
hmm
can read? And they're like, why do you need external sources for somebody's gender
Yeah.
identity? It's like,
There's
you're the external source
yeah.
for Kurt Cobain's gender identity.
Yep, gender identity is ideology. This is not, this is where it comes from. But here, Psych Ward Slut has posted the lyrics to "You Know You're Right." Most notably, I suppose, "I Will Never Bother You." Uh, and and saying this is, at least very, very trans. This idea here, which I thought that my desire to never bother women, or that I, as a man, my entire being was obtrusive, which I still feel. It was component to being trans, but it's not component to being trans. It's component to discomfort with my gender, sure, component to dysphoria at that point, but again, it doesn't have anything to do with being trans. Apparently, according to Psycho, "Smells Like Teen Spirit" is a trans anthem, which doesn't make any doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
um Freaking uh with the existential horror of Kurt Cobain being remembered as the symbol of masculinity within the violently misogynistic alternative community killed her. The violently misogynistic alternative community, huh? Okay, so now it's misogynistic, not trans misogynistic. The alternative community, which you just blamed feminism, like Riot Girl feminism, for being too uh for denying trans women the right to exist. What is this equation of existence with, having this one ideology? What concretely separates someone like me from someone like Pete Burns? You know, I not nothing against Pete Burns. We stand male femininity, of course. It's not just someone like me. I'm similar to Pete Burns, sure, but what separates someone like Laverne Cox from someone like Pete Burns besides that Laverne Cox going around pretending to be a woman?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, it's fucking. Uh, okay, here's a good one. She, Kurt, was seen as this legendary face of radical feminism, but she didn't feel radically feminist in the 90s Riot Girl era because that brand of feminism didn't believe Kurt could be a woman, thus resulting in a paradoxical pain we see in all her songs. I'm saying it like the public eye never thought to ponder Kurt's identity, and now it's fucking up people's conception of themselves. Trans is an identity crisis. You're welcome. Okay, well now you're on track. um,
This is just so stupid.
it's so interesting at the same
It
time.
is, it is. It is true, I suppose, that like the 90s saw sort of the beginning of like when it comes down to like the Riot Girl stuff, if we're talking about like 90s feminism, what isn't being said here is Mishfest, because that was like these battles were beginning to go down
Mm,
where uh you know, these trans activists in the 90s were asking labels and bands not to play at Mitchfest, and they were like, women born women are important, so I'm gonna go, I'm gonna play. And
yeah.
that's how they failed trans women like Kurt, who couldn't possibly feel comfortable coming out then.
Oh my god. I've got, okay, 2 more real quick with these tweets. Someone said, you can't just assign someone a gender, mate. Very popular opinion. If it makes you feel safe, do you. But it dehumanizes trans people by turning their gender into a performance and not a revolutionary movement like we all feel womanhood is made to be. It's not our fault men just made us look strong by rejecting femininity. What? This person truly is the psych ward slut, now aren't they? One more. Is there any sources or facts or reading material I can look at about this? Someone asked. And the final thing I'll say, psych ward slut says is, why do you need external sources to affirm someone else's gender identity? What the
But
fuck
Kurt
is
never
happening?
said.
I don't understand the framework that psych ward slut is putting forth here. You know, and yeah, again, you know, you said this before, but like we understand this is not, you know, traditional trans ideology. However, you know, trans ideology really does just push further and further. It gets more and more radical. You know, the more people, you know, see, you know, stuff like that, you know, the more they're gonna, you know, be interested in it. You know, like the first now, you know, bearded trans women are everywhere. For a minute, there was none, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's going, just digging itself deeper and deeper, where the rest of the world just gets, you know, higher and higher peaks on the dirt that they pile up into a mountain of bullshit. Do you want to move on?
Yeah, I mean, so this person has deleted their Twitter.
Aww.
I'm sure that people weren't very nice to them. And
Well,
I mean,
you know.
and I will say that this is also just kind of like part of the like the context of just the bullshit of the internet that like normally people with dumb ideas wouldn't those ideas wouldn't get very far, I guess. But um yeah, I don't know. Also, don't most people believe that Kurt Cobain didn't commit suicide?
Yeah. He was
Does
killed
that
by
mean
that bitch turf
that turf?
Courtney Love. Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Next thing.
Next thing,
All
I
right.
think that's it, except for getting into theory sphere.
Oh, we got
So
one more.
no,
Here's a tweet from X Hamster, which is a porn platform.
oh yeah.
Um, when we created hashtag Shy Yume, about 40% of our users wanted her to be a feminist. Here's what she'd look like: a bit older, a bit shorter, and a bit more heterosexual. Please don't tell us she's a TERF. Check her out. Okay, I don't know. And it's like feminist dream girl, and they're like, you know, selecting, you know, her height and stuff with like little, you know, bars that you can move back and forth. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? And what does the turf have to do with it? What?
You know what? If I had to say, I think, I mean,
Liberal feminism has gone too far.
well, so there are a lot of like, I mean, obviously turfs are swerfs, uh, and so there is a lot of like, but like turf is a more popular term than swerf,
Mm-hmm. Oh, so
and
you think
like
it's just them meaning
it's in its
swerve?
yeah, it's like, oh, she's a feminist, but she's like the hot kind.
God.
Yeah,
Do you think a
gross.
woman wrote this tweet? I don't.
Well,
Doesn't
maybe
matter
someone who's
anyway.
calling themselves a woman.
Women didn't, you know, create the framework that this tweet is operating in of fucking pornified looks at women. Like, so she's a feminist, but also, you know, she's a sex object.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
fucking weird.
Um, This is just one of the strangest things I've seen him in. Hashtag shy Yume. Yume means dream in Japanese. I don't even think this girl is Japanese, though.
No. I mean, she's not real, but...
Shy.
Yeah.
Oh, this whole thing is just fucking bizarre. Anyway,
Please
yeah.
don't tell us she's a TERF.
Anyway, yeah, there's not really much to say about that besides, what? So...
Yeah.
Oh, last dumb online shit thing is good online shit. I got RT'd by Graham Linehan. That was pretty cool.
Ooh,
Yeah.
congratulations.
For saying, violent anti-turf rhetoric serves mostly to intimidate fence sitters.
Yeah, which is very true. Although not one of your
I don't think it's
tweets.
not the most. I'm kind of surprised it really blew up because it was pretty simple there, but whatever.
But anyway, enough with the internet. Let's talk about your life.
Okay, yeah, we got two sort of theory spheres. Mine isn't really theoretical as much as it is practical. It's praxis sphere. So yeah, as y'all know, I am socially detransitioning, desisting. I'd like to just get into some of these specifics as I try and actually apply this new identity to my actual life. I still wear makeup every day, pretty much. It's not relevant to whether or not to whatever my gender identity is, if I do that or not, because there's no gender identity. But every time I say, I'm male or I'm a boy or something like to that effect to, my coworkers, they are always like, "Oh, what are your pronouns?" And just drives me nuts. I still haven't changed my name back to anything androgynous. It's still a feminine name, so that doesn't help. I get she'd pretty much all the time. It's tough to do this. It's hard to be gender non-conforming. I'm trying my best so
Can I
far.
ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, because this is praxisphere, if somebody were in your situation, so we know that trans people get very excuse me, my pronouns are whatever.
Right.
So I'm assuming that you're kind of going a more laid back kind of thing. Are you just letting them give you whatever pronouns, or are you saying hey, I know that you're socialized to care about people's pronouns, but I want you to know that I don't really care?
I just groan and walk away really I'm just so tired. I'm just please just don't worry about it. But at the same time, I guess I have to be any are fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't want to have this conversation anymore. It's just such a pain in the ass. And I understand, why I might need to have this conversation. It's not how trans people are oh, I don't want to have a conversation about my pronouns, and it's well, for you, it's gonna be confusing because you have a confused identity.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is, I'm a male. I'm biologically male. Yours should be that too. You're not different from me. And yet, I'm just she'd constantly and stuff. It's also interesting how like I'm treated like a woman.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I don't mean like I'm like sexually. Well, I am sexually harassed sometimes.
Sure.
But like everybody like girls like seem to have like like a level of trust in me that they wouldn't to a regular man, and that's always just very strange, a very strange feeling like I like this. I like the fact that I'm not
Mm-hmm.
being treated as dangerous or whatever. That was sort of my goal in transitioning in the first place, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
a little bit creepy when you think about it. And not that I was trying to creep on anybody, but just this notion also of um, men who don't, well, like I was, don't want to be seen as dangerous, and then like that, and that's a big component of trans rights or whatever, is like um, trans women are like, I don't want TERFs to see me as like a dangerous man because I'm not a man, and
Mm-hmm.
and like how that reads, of course, but at the same time, like I am happy to not be treated that way because I don't, you know, I've always felt that way, and it's like impacted my self-esteem very poorly. But at the same time, like I feel like maybe by all rights I should be treated more like that. But like I don't really have the heart to say like you don't have to treat me with as much trust as you do you know physically. Um, you know I don't know. Do you have something to say to that?
Well, I mean, I think that it is a little bit of an elephant in the room in feminism, which is, um, how do we talk about how to get the best out of men? Because we, I feel like Sheila Jeffries maybe made the point, like, well, of course we talk about men a lot. Like, it's kind of part of the, if you're the oppressed class, you're going to talk about your oppressors. Um, but I mean, just with, there's so much good stuff from the second wave. And I feel like we are now in this position where things have changed and we need to kind of take a new look at things. But it's very difficult because um, we have too many narratives. And like intersectional feminism is supposed to sort of like help with that, but it actually makes things way
Mm-hmm.
worse. But I do think we need to talk about like, what do we want from men? We're not necessarily giving them
Right.
super clear instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And what about all the men in our lives? I mean, there is something. Ugh. I do think that women have a right to be paranoid around men,
Right.
or to be concerned, or to be
Me
suspicious
too.
of
I've
men.
always felt that way my whole life.
But I also feel like you can get yourself into a state of too much paranoia where you can't really even live your life or just like recognize the humanity of another person because they are, and I'm not, ugh, it's not, I don't think that
Yeah, I know
misandry
it.
is a real problem,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that I don't think it's feminism's job necessarily to fix men, but I also think like
I think men can use the tools that is provided of
men can use the
feminism to
tools
fix themselves.
for sure, and I really exactly, and I think that we should be more encouraging of that, and you know what? I won't even say we. Like fuck it. I'll just say me. because I know that I'm going to get, every time I talk about this stuff, I get shit like, you're not a real TERF, Karen. You don't, like, you're not living in a cabin with only women and, like, never hearing men's voices again. It's like, yeah, I have a husband, I have a son. I'm not an antinatalist. And I also feel bad for men sometimes. And I don't think that's female socialization necessarily. I think it can be. But I think it is a little bit like, yeah, that it's a hard thing to overcome, because I do think a lot of men are like kind of retarded socially. And it's like, if they want to be better, you know, I think we should definitely allow for that. And but we don't have, like, there's no mainstream tools at their disposal. Basically, you can be like an incel and be angry at everybody, or an MRA. You can be like male feminist who like loves sex work. Like, you basically are just like any other dude. You just like say the right words but don't have any real empathy for women. Or, you know, you can transition and take care of those conflicting problems in your head where you're like, I do like women, I don't like masculinity. We're not really handing men another choice. And I know that it's like, oh, it's not feminism's problem. But it's like, yes, it is, because men are our problem.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to be like, oh, he should just do the dishes. And now I have to go do the fucking dishes because he won't do the dishes. But it's like, maybe do some of the dishes and then talk about it. Like, or at least show him how to do the dishes.
Right. It's, that...
and it's not fair, but life isn't fucking fair. And women are stronger than men. And women are better than men. In general. Overall.
Yeah.
And I'm... yes, I'm a female supremacist, okay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say...
not to say you aren't great.
Real quick, on that note, that, yeah, I always feel like when I talk about, you know, how gender impacts men too, people are like, feminism is for women, and I'm like, okay, well, should we just let men continue being the way they are then? Like, how are you going to empower women without having any effect on men? You know,
it's like, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean?
You know, when I like to think that I'm using feminism to impact men positively, I'm not, you know, taking men's, you know, currently what we think of as men's interests, like, I don't know, sexual liberation of women, and bringing it into feminism. I am... You know, I think that it is very much in men's interests to not be so masculine. And so I think that feminism absolutely can be useful for men. So I don't know what they're talking about. I would...
Totally.
But yeah, I think I'll update people more on, you know, my journey, my detransition journey more. But that was pretty much mostly what I wanted to say about that.
Okay, yeah. And for anybody, if we happen to have any men listening, would be weird, but if we do, or even trans women who maybe are feeling a little shaky on their identity and are feeling like, I'm not really a woman, am I? But I don't want to just go be a bro.
Right. You don't have to. Look at me.
You don't have to. And you should check out Robert Jensen and his writing and his talks on YouTube about radical feminism and how it can be applied to men, because it's really powerful stuff. And I'm always recommending his stuff to men, because to me, it's like, women, you can have, if you're gonna so you want to solve things for women. If in doing so you create backlashes because you didn't think about the component that is men, then you're you're not thinking about the whole playing field. It's not truly class-based thinking, because you have to think about these moving parts. Things are complicated. And the relationship, that there will be a relationship between men and women in society, is not going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to be addressed.
There's too much of both of us.
Yeah, there's just too much of both of us. Exactly. All right. Well, oh, actually, can I ask you, are you, like, I know you had, like, surgeries in the
I haven't
anus
yet.
area.
They're still coming.
Are you planning on still doing them?
Yeah, I'm not medically detransitioning. I'm socially detransitioning only, at least at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people will have questions about that.
Well,
So.
my main
Yeah.
thing that I want to say about that is, like, I've attempted to interrogate my desire for that plenty, but I just, and
Not going away.
it diminished a bit. It's still like I'm not just like constantly worried or whatever, because my main thing about that was passing anxiety. But at this point, like, I'm just like, I would rather look the way that a facial feminization surgery and a Brazilian butt lift are going to help me look. I almost kind of want to get my breasts out of the equation, but still have those. I don't know if you think that makes me a freak or something. I don't care. Being a freak is cool to
Too
me.
late.
But yeah, that's pretty much where I am with that. I've tried, like, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I could fucking try harder, but maybe it's just the fact that these resources are fairly accessible to me. Maybe they shouldn't be, for my own good, but to
They
me
are.
it seems easier, to go ahead and become more traditionally beautiful than to accept being less beautiful. And I think as long as we continue to provide these services, I'm going to get at least my facial feminization surgery covered by insurance. I think as long as we continue to do that, there's going to be more and more people who find it easier and easier to, do things like that. And if I wouldn't even necessarily have a problem with that, except for, I don't know, it probably does. If the more and more, culturally, ubiquitous something like that becomes, the more, dysphoria, dysmorphia even is going to come into play. So I don't think we can necessarily abolish, dysphoria
Sure.
without, taking away, this ability to indulge, your dysphoric image of yourself. So I understand all of these things, but also at the same time, I have not really been able to jettison all the patriarchal trauma, and just like, because here's the thing, if I were to do all of that, I probably wouldn't even be feminine at all. I probably wouldn't wear makeup. I probably wouldn't have long hair. And I sort of see that as the same thing. Like, that's, like, I've responded to gender in a certain way. Now, am I gendering body parts, which I shouldn't really do because it's not, body parts don't have genders. When I get surgery, yeah, I am. And I don't really have a philosophical basis for doing that. But, do you have a philosophical basis for everything you do? Are you, like, really a legit lesbian separatist? Do you really live in a lesbian commune? Or, do you wish it was more viable for you to do something like that? Because,
Yeah.
you know, right now the most viable option to me is to become a better trap, like I want to do. And again, it has nothing to do with me being a woman. The only thing it would have to do with is sort of escaping masculinity, which, I have like so much trauma associated with being a man and masculine, that if I can move away from it, I will. And that's, again, that's just the same as me, performing other traditionally gendered things like wearing makeup and women's clothes. So, that's really just the way I see that at that point.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is really interesting. I mean, you're pretty unique in doing this. Like, for most, like, what, 99% of detransitioners, it's like the full
right
deal.
But I don't understand that, because that almost seems as genderist, like, why do they
well, I don't think they're going and getting breast implants if they've had mastectomies, but they're saying, like, I don't need these hormones anymore.
Right, but
I do know that
at the same time, I've seen plenty of I had somebody say something to me like, like, when I detransitioned, I had to look myself in the mirror, throw away that binder, and put on a bra. And I'm like, okay, well, why the hell did you have to do that? You didn't have to do that. That's gendered. Nice, like, how is that less gendered than what I'm doing? Stupid.
All right, well, we'll fight them next time.
Dingleberry.
Episode 10.
All right, yeah. All right, well, yeah, we've got episodes lined up. Got stuff to talk about, so.
All right. Next time.
In the TERFcast.
Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we making noise. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we making noise. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, help estradiol. Hold up, you can suck it, there ain't none to swallow. Posting leads on Twitter, they gon' follow. Throwing money at me, say they wanna bother. Boy, pussy must be serious. Hold up, scared it's they can face your fears. Hold up, do it just like 30 snipple straight boys is. Say you never cross-dress, turn them gender queer. Now. No surgery, I pass already. Oh, weak girls call me sexy. Kawaii boy. And incels rank me Becky. Till I realize I'm a boy and they're like, hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we making noise. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we some boys. Hold up, we making noise. Hold up, we some boys.
Hold up, boy, pussy drive you crazy. Number one, bitch, you can't replace me. S-Trace gonna turn you into SAC. Irresistible, gonna cuck you like I'm Jay-Z. Be to decide, so we push them to the side and we ride raw, hide up on that fresh kick. I'm a suicide, yeah, I'm purified, no tea, astral guide, pipe, gummy cockeyed, dumb chick. Yes, I am a guy, still be a bride. I am modified from my backside, why? Yeah, I'm thick, fortified, nullified, sexified, occupied, gay trap, hard, hun, genocide if you're a bird. Hold up, I've got American pussy swag. I'm I may be funny, but check the method since you the fag. Lead, call me a slip up what you missing before you got your bag. Slow up, drip like honey, you'll then boat out of drag. Hold up, we them boys. Hold up, we them boys.